Good. Whenever you're stumbling across this, in whatever time or space you seem to have either voluntarily entered into this pocket dimension or inadvertently found yourself here. I am Professor Nick, or the version of Professor Nick who's supposed to be presenting this to you, or perhaps the version of Professor Nick who's presenting this to you because a certain character we will be talking about later may have wanted me to present this information to you, and so I have been retconned into your reality. Who's to say? This is Introduction to Obscurity, Absurdity, and Essoterrika, 122 and an eighth. And as I stated before, I am Professor Nick, or a variation thereon. Okay, I really gotta stop doing that. So, today's lecture, we're going to have a little bit of fun with it. It's going to be poppy. It's going to be zingy. It's going to raise some ideas. It may, in fact, have a couple of red flags. Who is to say? Only way we're going to find out is if we engage with the material, we go forward, and hey, who knows? Maybe we'll learn something. I will, however, say this. We're not going to be able to validate parking. I can't guarantee when you came into this little, quote-unquote classroom. I don't know where we are, when we are, or how we are. And when you leave, I don't know where you're going to end up either. So let's just make the most of it. Pull up a chair. I can't guarantee whether or not the chairs will be what they appear to be when you actually sit in them. But maybe they'll be loungers. Maybe they'll be standalone stools. Who is to say? It's all an adventure, and we're all having that adventure together. So, lock in, learners. It's time to power all the points. So I do realize that there's a great deal of things that you could be out there doing, experiences you could be having, people you could be sucking face with. And so I'm going to do my very best to keep this as brief as possible, but I must warn you, there's a very good possibility that there is a quiz at the end of this. Maybe. Today, frankly, has a lot to do with reality warping, but also altering the very fabric of some things that we hold dear. I spent a great deal of time and taxpayer dollars exploring the world for absolutely no reason, traveling through time and space without a care of whether or not I butterflied all the effects, so that I could bring you this heartfelt, well thought out, and, dare I say, meticulously researched PowerPoint presentation. Oh, would you look at that? Somebody's proper little man got dressed up for the occasion. But unfortunately, he got dressed up for a sad occasion, because today's presentation will be on why Marvel will never let Jeff, Squirrel Girl, and Gwenpool be part of the MCU. Somebody's got to break it to you guys, and it might as well be me. There really is no way around it, okay? There's no way of looking at it other than to just stare openly, accept it, and move on. So let's just take this moment, all right? We're going to recollect ourselves, find our zen, maybe find a fidget toy. That's not a fidget toy. I mean, you could use it, but we both know you're not fidgeting. All right. Whatever way you need to collect yourself and find yourself in a better space mentally before we proceed. Okay, let's do it. Now, I realize that not everyone attending this course, whether voluntarily or involuntarily, might have all of the knowledge that they need in order to understand where I'm going to take this. So let us start by covering the origins and the power sets of the three individuals I've mentioned. We begin by first meeting Gwendolyn Poole, aka Gwenpool. Now, Gwendolyn was never supposed to be a palette-swapped female Deadpool. However, because of a misreading of a tag that was passed along to the tailor or seams person who constructed Gwen's suit, the suit ended up looking like unto Deadpool's suit, and therefore Gwen became Gwenpool. Gwendolyn Poole, Gwenpool, Gwenpool. Right? Pretty easily misunderstood. So yeah, Gwen is quite the interesting little character here, but also might be the reason single-handedly why these three characters won't be in the MCU. It's kind of a thing, because you see, Gwen, it's got an interesting power set. So to understand Gwen, is to understand that Gwen comes from our reality. And that is to say, our reality, or a version of our reality, a very similar version of our reality to our reality. It's superheroes, supervillains, the Marvel Universe exists only in comic books, where Gwen came from originally. Okay? So Gwen ended up gaining the knowledge that she has about heroes and villains and monsters and gods from comic books. All of those comic books being accurate to the universe that she ends up inhabiting. Okay, so being a high school dropout and a complete and utter comic book nerd, Gwen read as many comics as possible. Gwen obtained, basically soaked up as much information as she could, and then ends up getting yanked into the 616. All right, the main comic book universe of the multiverse. All right, so all of the comics, or most of the comics that happen in the Marvel comic book continuum happen in the 616. Well, Gwen now is part of the 616. Okay, got the suit because of the mix-up. Looks like Deadpool a little bit, but it's a little bit of a play. But here's the thing: in transferring realities, became a reality warper, which the reality warps that she does, whether conscious or unconscious, alters not only the present, but the past as well. So, in the common parlance of comic books, Gwenpool has the ability to retcon the reality that she finds herself in. So, can alter something irrevocably, and can do so in a way that no one questions, because they just assume that it's always been that way. For example, Gwen actually convinced the X-Men that she was a mutant, okay, and that she had the X gene. When they went to investigate, they discovered she had the X gene. Professor X was able to locate her with Cerebro, which Cerebro can locate mutants, right? All of that was plausible. Whether or not she did it consciously or unconsciously, we don't know, because the change of it, the fact that the X-Men believed it, the fact that she had the X gene, she could have herself unconsciously changed that in order to fit in, and no one, including her, would have known it. It's one hell of a head scratcher. Next up, one of my absolute favorites, and the one character I like to throw at debating comic book nerds in order to make them lose their shit, Doreen Aline Green, also known as the unbeatable Squirrel Girl. There is not a character that she cannot conquer. There is not a doom that she cannot decimate. There is not a god that she cannot completely something with a G. Whoa, okay. That's an outfit, I'll tell you. All right, so Doreen first popped up in Marvel Superheroes Volume 2, number 8. It was the winter special. It was like a bunch of short stories. I remember this one because I actually found this in a bargain bin in a small town outside of a farming community in Connecticut. Long story. But Squirrel Girl popped up, right? In this one, I think it was like 5 or 6 pages, she beats the crap out of Tony Stark in the full Iron Man costume, okay? He's rocking the mark, I don't know, 20, 30 something. It was in the comic books, it was still during the era where his faceplate was like solid, so it had eye holes and a mouth hole but no nose hole. It was a whole thing. And then Doreen proceeds to beat up Dr. Doom. Same issue. In the course of one issue in Central Park, Doreen beats up Tony Stark in the full Iron Man costume and Dr. Doom, who, as we all know, is rocking power armor, but also has magic at his disposal. Ever since, she has absolutely dominated, and has always done so with kind of an aw shucks, like down-to-earth mentality, which frankly bugs the crap out of some people. So, through the course of her career, Doreen has picked up on a lot of stuff. There's a lot of powers that are inherent to her as a character, but there's also been stuff that's developed over the course of time. Now, I think this is pronounced scurriokinesis, which is basically constant psychic contact with all squirrels. And based on current counts, that could number squirrels on the planet 3 to 5 to 1. So 3 to 5 squirrels for every one human. Now, obviously, it's hard to count squirrels. And when trying to find the information about squirrel populations on the face of the planet, I had a particularly big laugh because they were also sitting there trying to define different species of squirrel. And I get it, okay? We love to categorize things. But here's the thing. When you're trying to count squirrels at large, trying to divide them into groups doesn't make your job any easier. All right? I mean, you're making more work for yourself. It's ridiculous. Anyway, so yes, she is in constant contact with all squirrels psychically. She has superhuman agility, senses, and strength, the ability to communicate with squirrels, I guess, which is covered under the first one, but it's redundant. But I don't know if communicate and psychic communication is exactly the same thing. And scurriokinesis could also be considered the control of squirrels, but I don't know if it's a matter of controlling them so much as it is just a matter of asking them politely via psychic connection in order for them to do stuff. And they all just respect her so much that they do it for her. Now, here's the thing about this, too. Like, they also, as we all know, we'll find out later on in this list, they all do kind of her quote-unquote bidding because she has been placed on a little bit of a pedestal by their god. We'll get there in a second. Regenerative healing factor on par with Wolverine's. Check that nonsense out. Retractable knuckle spikes. Nobody knows what they're made of. Okay, but they have been able to penetrate and slice through vibranium and have done a hell of a ton of damage to a lot of top tier brawlers in the MCU. Razor sharp claws, prehensile tail, night vision. All right. She's been deemed worthy of the blessings of Ratatoskr. All right? I don't know what that entails, but basically, Ratatoskr, the giant fire-breathing, unicorn-horned squirrel god who scurries up and down the tree of life, all right, in Norse mythology, is also very real in the MCU, and Ratatoskr's like, you my girl, and so every single squirrel may in fact end their responses to Doreen with, yes, our queen. For all we know, because there has yet to be any squirrel to English translations in the comic books. But yeah, they also say she has quote unquote squirrel powers, and I'm drawing a blank on that one, guys. I'm sorry. But other things that she has, very interestingly enough, is Deadpool's Guide to Supervillains and Iron Man's Versus trading cards. This allows her. Now, we've never seen these before or after in the 616 in the Marvel comic book continuity, but she has her hands on information that provides her both the trading cards and the book provide her all of the information about every villain and superhero and cosmic being that anyone has ever encountered. And this comes into play in a little bit because she has verifiably kicked all of the ass. Like all of it. Wolverine, Deadpool, MODOK, all right? I know what you're saying. MODOK? Yeah, no, think of a head with very small legs and arms. If you've seen the third Ant-Man movie, you know what I'm talking about. But basically, it's a machine something designed to kill. I forgot what the thing stands for. Doesn't matter. It's a complete and utter loser. Will come up a couple of slides from now. But MODOK, Doctor Doom, twice, at least twice. Iron Man, Hydra, the organization, okay? She has fought the organization and won on multiple occasions. Red Skull, Hulk, Captain America, Korvac the Cosmic Being, okay? Fin Fang Foom, which is an interstellar shorts-wearing dragon. Don't ask me why it's wearing shorts. It was that the era in the comic book code needed to make sure we weren't showing any dinglings. Kraven the Hunter. That's right, Aaron Taylor Johnson. I get that you look good in that movie, but just realize that you have the ability to strut around looking good the way that you did in those movies and not losing solely because Doreen was nowhere near your movie. Baron Mordo, the evil sorcerer supreme, okay, the opposite of Stephen Strange. Yeah, she's beaten him. Okay, Ego the Living Planet. If you've seen Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, that's right. It's Kurt Russell. Okay, she's beaten him. Both in the Avatar form and in the whole ass planet form. Okay, Galactus. If you don't know Galactus, if you're not too much of a comic book reader, don't worry. Galactus is going to be in the new Fantastic Four movie. All right, you'll understand. He eats planets for a living. Okay. And there's one other character that some of you may be familiar with that she is actually tangled with and won. Yeah. Okay. Let that sink in for a minute. When not trying to get her degree in computer engineering and programming, she beat the brakes off of Thanos to a degree that Uatu the Watcher, who witnesses, chronicles, and records all of reality, watched and commented on her taking Thanos to the mat. Well, gee whiz, you're saying to yourself, Professor Nick, given the fact that the first character was a reality warper and the second character has unbeatable in her formal title, is there really the necessity for a third character? Why, yes, of course there is, humble watcher of this presentation, especially when that third character is the cutest character in the world. This slide didn't need to be here. There was no need for a title card. You already knew I was going to talk about Jeff because he was in the title of the presentation. However, any excuse to put as much Jeff art out there as possible, I'm gonna fucking take it. Let's do the origin rundown, shall we? Of our goodest boy, or of our delightful killing machine. Did you say killing machine? Why, yes, I did, because originally that's what he was designed for. You remember MODOK, the giant head with teeny tiny arms and legs that is constantly trying to kill everybody? Yeah, MODOK designed Jeff. Jeff was designed, he was engineered, and he was built with a bunch of brothers and sisters, siblings, and aunts and uncles, I suppose. And all of them were built specifically by MODOK to be two things: weapons to destroy the Avengers and test subjects. Yeah, did not want to be responsible. MODOK is icked out by the idea of doing tests on monkeys. So what did MODOK do? Built land sharks. So MODOK had a lab out on the West Coast, decided that he had been wronged by Santa Monica, and so he programmed all of them to destroy Santa Monica. I don't need to say that you gotta be particularly evil to come up with certain plots, but when you take all of the land sharks that you have designed, the ones that you've been testing shampoos out on, and you decide that you're going to sick them on Santa Monica, just why? Anyway, so the West Coast Avengers, which are basically like, the East Coast Avengers, only they have better tans, defeated MODOK, right? And Gwenpool was a member of that team. Well, Gwen sees this adorable little boy. Look at him. Sees that face. And decides that Pupperoos is going to be the new pet for the team. Now, here's the thing. He has been in so many other places with so many other teams and so many other heroes. He's basically, at this point, everybody's pet. And really, can you blame any of the superhero? If one of the benefits of being a superhero in the MCU is that you get Jeff as a pet, I'd be willing to sign up. Now, when it comes to powers for Jeff, all right, he is the most squishy-wishy, adorable of all of the characters. That's it, okay? He's a ray of sunshine, all right? He is the positivity. He is the one thing that reminds all of the heroes that he encounters that there is something worth fighting for. Because if that little face were to make direct eye contact with you, tell me, in the real world, if you were to encounter, look at the picture right now. Look at the picture and a little blue on blue camo number, okay? If that face were to look at you and make one of the vocalizations that he makes, look it up, okay? YouTube, but I will tell you right now, it's adorable. It's bubbly. It's gurgly. He sings. How would you not think that humanity and the world was worth saving? Like, if that boy right there made eye contact with some world leaders right now, we might be pushing towards peace and cleanup of the environment, because we wanted to ensure that that adorable, leathery little pumpkin was going to be fine. There is, however, at this moment, a little thing that I may have to mention, because honestly, I would be remiss if I didn't bring it up, and it is a theory that has kind of, sort of, picked at the brains of comic book fans for a little bit of time, and, may make Jeff a little bit more than any of us really understand. Now, as I stated before, MODOK made Jeff and all of his siblings and all of his... very well, if there was one strain of DNA, they were all basically clones of one another, right? So none of them should really be different, okay? And all of the other land sharks that MODOK made were savage, violent, dangerous, flesh-craving. They were quite dangerous. I've said dangerous a couple of times, but I think you're getting the point. It's a shark that doesn't need to be underwater. Sharks are bad enough, but at least you know where they are. These can run around. So, yikes. All right? Here's where the hang-up comes. All right? There's a possibility that Jeff, in being the only survivor, and the fact that Jeff seems to be immune to every power that exists in the MCU, including he was once possessed by a symbiote like unto Venom and overpowered the symbiote, which no other character has done. There's a possibility that Jeff is the way that Jeff is because of Gwenpool and her ability to consciously and unconsciously alter reality and completely retcon the existence in the 616. And nobody can say whether or not that is the case. So we take all of that information, right? You take what you've learned from this presentation, brief though it be, without footnotes, of course, feeling quite froggy and looking forward to some of you deciding to throw actuallys in my direction. Bring it on. I love being corrected, and honestly, if you're out here providing information that refutes my information, rock on. I'm good with it. This is more of a exploration than it is an actual fact-finding mission. The point, though, is this. Now that you have all of that information, I need you to understand precisely, and I'm going to put it succinctly, why these three characters may never surface in the live-action MCU. Yep. Says it all, really. You gotta understand, okay? We exist in a very jaded media landscape because, well, we used to have comic book movies, right? We used to, right? Blade, Spawn, I could go on and on. They did happen, all right? They weren't part of a larger universe, right? But, right? Comic book movies happen. They sometimes do get connected, right? The interconnectedness of the MCU live action stuff is unprecedented, right? Serialized movies and television to the scope of what we've seen recently when it comes to Marvel content, that's unreal. However, like any other Pandora's box, when you open it, you get both, right? Oh my God, we have live action serialized Marvel. It's amazing. It's spectacular. It is to be taken seriously. Perhaps too seriously. And with that seriousness came the fans that were insisting it be taken seriously. And with those fans who insisted it be taken seriously, started the avalanche of negativity, which I don't know if there's any kind of connective tissue when it comes to the negativity that has been presented by the quote unquote fans of the MCU. It's hard for me to put a finger on some interconnecting thread that really, links all of the properties in the MCU that the fans hate. They complain that it's too serious or too dark. They complain that it's not dark enough and not serious enough, and that the tones are too disparate. When you look at it all of the MCU live action, when you take all of it into account, it's really difficult to really find why these fans of goofy, funny books that used to cost a quarter, that had characters with purple prose and angry Claremontian narrators and scene-chewing dialogue and technicolor costumes. It's hard to kind of understand what their problem is, given that none of it, while sometimes having commentary built into it that spoke to society and culture and acceptance and harmony. Having these be ideas presented by characters who oftentimes punch dinosaurs, it's a little bit difficult to wonder exactly why so many of them have sticks up their ass. I'd also like to take this opportunity to point out that those last bunch of stills, I enjoyed all of those properties for what they were. The ones that took themselves seriously, the ones that offered us glimpses into lives that were not our own, but also the ones that didn't take themselves seriously because they weren't supposed to. I mean, God's sakes, the Marvels? The Marvels was like the closest thing that Marvel will ever get to when it comes to a Doctor Who episode, and I friggin' loved it. So, when it comes to these three characters in a cinematic universe where all of the source material has to be taken seriously, but not too seriously. We need to be true to the characters, but we need to make it fresh and new. When we have to make sure that the characters are doing what the characters would do in the comic books, but we need to be careful because we don't want to insert politics or make it too empathetic towards marginalized communities or have a social message. Yikes. We find ourselves in a space precarious at best, because these characters would be awesome live action. These characters would be fun live action. These characters could make you question things about the movies that have come out up until the point they were introduced. But we're not going to do that. We're not going to have a squirrel girl who is capable of beating cosmic entities, which it takes a whole team and a bunch of high-end technology in order to defeat. We're not going to have that. We're not going to have a kid who knows how comic books operate, who knows exactly how all of the villains, interact with the world, and be able to fundamentally alter that if it serves the plot. Because plot armor is problematic. And Lord knows, we can't have cute for the sake of cute. We can't have adorable for the sake of adorable. We can't have a cartoony shark running around on the screen, because Lord knows that would do too much damage. But I will be damned if it wouldn't be frickin' fun. The musical numbers, the ridiculous action sequences, having Gwen be able to not only comment on what's going on and break the third wall, but do so in a way that's askew to what we've been presented by Deadpool in the past. Because Deadpool, while being able to do those things that are considered comical by many a viewer, is also fundamentally a bad guy who, yes, in the movies is far more sympathetic, but also in the comic books is a stone-cold killer who does it for money and is constantly womanizing. So, I would also be double damned, dipped and ready to be fried if I didn't point out that it would be abso-freaking-lutely amazeballs to watch Squirrel Girl, played by, I don't know, Anna Kendrick, Allison Brie, Melina, I forgot her last name, but to see Squirrel Girl kick the ever-loving shit out of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, who has always been a character in the movies that we have taken sternly serious. In conclusion, and returning to, a view of serenity and showing how Mother Gaia provides us with the most beautiful of scenery without having to make much effort. Oh, what man does. How he strives in order to recreate that which can never be recreated. For nature provides the true imperfect perfection which we all strive to capture and think ourselves mighty enough to contain. Wow, okay. The ending had really nothing to do with it. In conclusion, Squirrel Girl, Gwenpool, Jeff, amazing characters. A lot of stuff. Very cool stuff. Take it as seriously as you'd like to, but remember, you're not supposed to take it seriously. These are people in spandex, right? It's for the funsies. Because as we all know, it is just us finding ways of entertaining ourselves before the inevitable tearing of the hell portals and the pterodactyls wearing jorts emerge to destroy all of us with their Hanna-Barbera lasers that shoot from their mouths. I've been Professor Nick. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. And The door I came in isn't there anymore. Okay, how do we get out of here? Maybe it's behind one of these. Like, is it behind the uppercase C? I don't like. And who? Hang on. These I mean, I didn't. Wait, hold on. Is this like the Gwenpool thing? Am I unconsciously writing credits? I mean, yeah, I found the pictures on the internet and the characters are by Marvel and the odd. Okay. Ha ha ha. Yeah, I mean, given how critical I am of my own creations, the audacity does track. The words that come out of my mouth, the ideas. Hey, okay. I think I made some salient points and I may have poked fun at, a certain portion, a certain large and vocal portion of the MCU fan base, right? But there was logic to it. You can't just, that's just not, oh, no. Those last two, those are true. You guys are amazing. I mean, I couldn't do any of this without you. Which makes me wonder, am I, enriching your life, or am I basically the monster to your Frankenstein and you don't know how to destroy me? I mean, you gotta wonder. Seriously though, see the Marvels? It was fun. There was a musical number.